Thank you. Thank you, Maggie.
Yeah.
I'm getting to know Master Hamid Bey better all the time, and
He know you.
he is always smiling, always caring, like we need to be. Well, I was telling Alan Tutt, bless your heart for being here to film us, that I very seldom give expression to a negative condition. So in my title to say broken dreams, I don't like to remind people or even give power to negativity. But last summer I was doing a series where I was really trying to have some traction with people who might be, connected to the people in our congregation who were troubled, who were struggling, who felt that their lives were a mess. So I called the series Life Repair 911. 911 because it's urgent. Our lives matter. It's terrible to be stuck in despair and discouragement. So Life Repair 911 4, and then there was a series of different things. So broken dreams, how many of you can relate to the feeling of having broken dreams? Maybe we could have a contest to see who has the biggest broken dream. No, I'm just kidding. And to add a little more humor to it, look inside your folder with the cartoon. I sent that to John. And that's a deviation from, usually there's an inspiring graphic there that's all full of light and uplift. And this is just making fun of the foibles of our ego, the suffering that we, get ourselves into in this life journey. Have a little laugh about it, okay? So, as luck would have it, the week that I was creating this sermon, I was shopping. I got to the parking lot of Myers at 11 o'clock at night. And I'd been trying to get there all week. And I was so glad I love shopping. and there was this fellow collecting carts, an employee of Myers, an African-American man in his 30s. And he says, well, I guess you do. You're here every day. And I said, I am not. This is only the second time I've gotten here this year. He says, oh, well, you love it then. I said, yeah. He said, where are you from? I said, Washington, D.C. And he says, and do you like it here? I said, yeah, I do. I love it here. Do you like it here? He says, no, I don't. I said, why not? He said, I was born here, and I've been in jail, and they're never going to let me do anything now, and I'll never get out of here. So I got my card out, and I said, look, you come and see me. I'm sure we can figure out something that you can do. And then just to qualify myself, I said, in 1963, I was 18 years old, and I was in D.C., and so I attended the March on Washington that Martin Luther King led, and I was there when he gave his speech. I was there. And the young man said, just think, he was leading those hundreds of thousands of people forward. I was astonished that he said that, And I said, that's exactly what was happening. You're right. And then he said, that's what this city needs. Again, I was astonished that he could envision that. And I looked him right in the eye and I said, that could be you. And he got it, And then I just went to go shopping. And as I walked away, he said, bless you. Bless you. Now, I haven't seen him again. But I haven't been able to stop thinking about that. And that's how we do it. That is an encapsulation of what I'm talking about tonight. That when you can see the possibility, it doesn't matter what has preceded that moment. It doesn't matter. You are free to create whatever dream, whatever gift you can imagine. Now, so what are dreams? Where do they come from? We like to say in metaphysics that our desires are D, meaning a French word meaning of, and sire, the Father. They're of the Father. They're God's gifts that are implanted in you that are wanting to come forth. That's what desire is. So here's the thing, though. How do they corrupt our lives? How do they add to our lives? I want to address that, because in some ways, when we get attached to a future possibility, it sabotages us, I like to look at Jesus, the life of Jesus. What were his dreams? Perhaps he had no dreams, because we are supposed to live in the now. That is the enlightenment path. And the children of Israel, now they had dreams. They were dreaming of being avenged and having their golden age of God's kingdom restored. And then Jesus comes along and says, it's already here. All you have to do is show up a little differently, take on forgiveness, step into generosity and kindness. Well, we're still working on that message. But I just want to share with you what I learned from a broken dream that I tried to bring forth. So I moved to Kansas City in 1997, and I had a dream to establish a children's facility called the Childrens Oasis. Well, I never got to make it work, because the first stumbling block was I had to get liability insurance, and it didn't fit into any of the categories. It wasn't a foster home. And what it would be 2 months, 8 children would come and go through the program, and they would be the kind of children that people are really glad to get rid of for a while, because they're really trying, They'd be all the same gender. It could have been 8 boys or 8 girls, and they would be facilitated to interact in ways that they connected in a new way, became positive leaders, and experienced themselves in positive ways and in connected ways. Well, I could have called it a rehab center, but I didn't know that. So it wasn't a summer camp. It wasn't a private school. It wasn't a foster home. What was it? I could never get that lined up. I never got the money lined up, although I found a house, and I worked for 10 years, 3 jobs, to try to purchase that house. I lived in it and rented it during the time. And if it hadn't have been for that uphill push that I had, I wouldn't have much Social Security, because I hadn't worked much up until that time. So that was good. But during that time, I networked, I communicated with people, and I had a great conversation to share with people and a wonderful vision. And I'm not really, in the final analysis, I'm not disappointed that it didn't work out, because every idea that's given to humanity is given to the collective. Somewhere, someone will have that idea and bring it forth. So I moved on. Now I'm doing something else. But my point is, what do you do when something falls apart, when it breaks down and you don't get to bring forth the thing you're dreaming of? So I say, first of all, learn. Learn all you can. Acquire more language, acquire more communication skills, acquire greater connections and networks of exposure, acquire more sophistication about the ways of the world and how business is done, and all those things. Learn. It's your opportunity. And then second, I say, reinvent yourself. Because you can be anything. You can ask Spirit for any quality. You can ask for more intelligence. I do all the time. You can ask for... I left a message on my own voicemail saying, I asked God to make me more charismatic, so we'll see how that works out. That's last spring. But no, you can be any way you want to be. You can create yourself, and in any, in any model that seems to be what is needed in the situation that you're in. Do you agree? Mm-hmm. You believe it? Yeah. Yes, you can. You are completely malleable, because the Christ in you, the spiritual divinity within you, is unlimited. Okay. Then, when you're having that feeling of loss, that something hasn't worked out, that there's been a breakdown, draw closer to God. Draw close to the angels. Draw close to Jesus. Draw close to anything holy. Bring it into you because you don't want to stay in that feeling of disappointment, loss, or despair. No, no, no. So the heavens, the light, the source, bring it into you. Just pull it in and say, help me. And then recognize you're good. Don't overlook all the good that you already have. I know a woman who felt resentful towards her mother because her mother had told her all her life, I just wish you had never been born. I was just doing fine without you, and I could have been better off if you hadn't been. Yeah. And, but the thing was, she had a father who was very well adjusted, as opposed to her mother, who was extremely neurotic. Her father was popular, had a good, was a good dancer, had lots of skills, could build houses, and, he was funny and delightful. And she was Daddy's girl. She had the better part, didn't she? But because she was living in that story of being a victim, she deprived herself somewhat of the joy of the wonderful father that she had. So, if we have dreams, we're attached to something that takes us out of the now. Stay in the now. Create in the now. Beware of plans, of anticipation. Beware of excitement. This is all of the appetites, like when people say, well, aren't you excited and looking forward to, whatever, going to Germany to see your daughter? I think this is what Jesus meant when he said, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, the bad leaven, that takes you out of your own power and puts your power into something that hasn't even happened yet. It's not a function of enlightenment. So, if you would rise above the story of having broken dreams, of being disappointed in life, feeling failure and that success has eluded you, wake up. That is poison. Don't drink it. Tell yourself a new story. Tell yourself the truth. The truth is that you are on a path of unfoldment that is unavoidably leading you to greater and greater states of spiritual realization. That is the only reality for all of us. So rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven, in that new state of consciousness, where you are in the flow, where you are in communion with Source, with the allness, where you are one with the one. Amen. Thank you.